This is a video of how we get from this to this. I'm going to show you how I made a reliable, continuous feed, first strike capable magazine for the TGR platform. Step 1 is prototyping. Make something, try it, make it better next time, over and over again, until I have something that I am confident will work every single time. Before printing, I go through a pre-print checklist to ensure that I do not miss any settings that would change the quality of the product. By now, you have all seen what 3D printing looks like. I print the parts, I remove the supports. Next, I fit the two shells together and test them in the mag wells of the TGR and M17 to make sure that they latch correctly. Next is a detailed visual inspection of the magazine inside and out. There are some rough spots that need smoothing with sandpaper, and there are a couple of spots that need extra attention, leftover artifacts from splitting, combining, and just generally modifying three-dimensional files. I've had two that do not pass inspection so far. This particular one, I had the wrong build plate selected. The temperature was too low and it lost adhesion. I still made a functional magazine out of it, but due to the defect, it is going to be part of my personal collection of magazines and not for sale. The next step is sanding the channel. This is pretty straightforward. Just focus on the parts that I know are problems and just generally smooth out everything else. You've all seen sanding before, so I'm just going to speed through this. Now for everybody's favorite part, power tools. I used 120 grit polishing wheels to finish off the inside of the channel. I pay extra attention to the hole where the ratcheting winder goes. I've found that if I ever have a problem with mags feeding during testing, it's due to a problem either within this hole or with the winder itself. The follower within the channel is not a problem. Any problem I have, it's always been friction between the winder and the mag. Next, I vacuum off the dust and then wet a rag with isopropyl alcohol and run it through the channel and in the winder hole to collect any extra dust that might be in there. Isopropyl alcohol is not a problem for the type of plastic used, but it is just wet enough to pick up a little bit more dust than what vacuuming alone can do. Next, I thread the hole in the follower. This serves no function in the final magazine, but it does make the next step so much easier. I intentionally print the followers too big. This is because I know that there will be ridges, and this process allows me to take the ridges away, make a very smooth follower, and still keep the measurement within the tolerances that I want. The next step is to attach the follower and ratchet spinner with a predetermined length of low stretch microcord. In order to keep the knots from unraveling and to add a little bulk to the knots, I dip the ends in a flexible UV curable resin. This resin can cure in sunlight, or you can put it in a UV light box. The next step is to press in the brass heat set inserts. I melt them into the plastic using a soldering iron and a tip specially made for this, as well as a device I have made to hold the soldering iron steady and keep it vertical. After the inserts are in place, I install the winder, follower, and spring. I install the detent, and I put the two halves of the mag together. There are 4 screws which hold this magazine together. You might notice some light sanding has been done to the top of the ratcheting winder. As I said previously, any feeding problems I have had has been a result of friction between the winder and the shell, either on the outside, the top, the bottom. I do end up smoothing those out. Here we are, finally giving it its initial test. I wind it up and I provide just manual resistance to the follower actually making it all the way through the channel. I don't push it through, I resist it going through. Because if it's not going through the channel with no rounds in it, it's certainly not good enough and it needs some work. This one tested fine. So on to the next phase of testing. And we've made it to the final test. I load up a mag with first strikes. I cock the marker, insert the mag, and I manually activate it. Pull back the charging handle, pull the trigger, let it pull forward, and just let the first strikes fall out of the barrel. I go through 2 full mags like this, and if it succeeds, I consider it ready for sale. You may have noticed that each magazine has numbers inside. That is a model number and a serial number. The serial number exists so that I can track everything about these magazines, which revision of the shell did I sell somebody, which revision of the follower, the winder, the detent, what brand of filament, when did I print it, everything I need to know in order to address any problems that a customer might have with a magazine, whether it's a single replacement part or if there's a systemic problem in the manufacturing process that I need to address. So there you have it. That is the very condensed version of how I go about making these magazines. I hope you're as excited for them as I am. I will certainly be using them this year, and contact me and I'd be more than happy to sell you some so that you can use this fantastic marker the way it was meant to be used.